All right. I see folks are starting to trickle in. Hello, everyone. I hope everybody's doing great, even though the holiday break feels like a million years away at this point. I think we are going to get things started. So today we have prepared for you a very popular topic. We're starting the year with a bang on our live training series, and we're going to cover everything that you need to know about Katana's integration with Shopify. But before we get started, we want to hear from you on how you're doing with the integration so far. Where are you with it? Have you started using it? Are you joining in as a new user, perhaps? Great. I'm getting some answers. Fantastic. And these are good answers for us to shape the content around. But without further ado, I'm going to jump onto the agenda today. The session is breaking out into 3 different components. First, we're going to give you an overview of the integration. From that, we're going to move into more of an interactive demo. And if we've got time at the end, we'll cover some questions during the Q&A. Otherwise, we'll take those away and answer them afterwards. With me today, I've got 2 product experts, very much specialized in the integration with Shopify, Logan Jones and Mike Wilson. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Logan to take us away.
Awesome. Thanks, Andrea. Yeah, so let's talk about just a quick overview of the Shopify integration in Katana. So essentially, there's a couple different ways information flows between Shopify to Katana and Katana to Shopify. So the first one I'm going to talk about is what flows over from Shopify to Katana. So first is going to be your sales orders, and this is going to be paid sales orders or sales orders that are marked as paid or payment pending, depending how you've set up the integration, which we'll get to later. We also sync over order changes. So if you're changing quantities, adding line items, things like that, they get synced over back to Katana. We can bring over your products and customers. We can also sync over returns if they're created in Shopify, some line item properties if you're adding some custom meta fields to things. And then we can also do the fulfillment status sync, meaning that when I mark the order as fulfilled in Shopify, it's going to mark it as delivered in Katana. Now, when we're looking at Katana to Shopify, how that works is Katana is going to be your source of truth for your inventory. So we have an inventory sync, which means that we only sync one way. So inventory from Katana over to Shopify. Again, this is an integration setting if it's toggled on. You can also bring over initial inventory from Shopify to Katana when you first connect the integration. We also do the fulfillment status because it is a 2-way sync, meaning that when I mark my order as delivered or partially delivered in Katana, it's going to partially fulfill it or mark it as fulfilled in Shopify. We can also sync over the tracking information if you add it in Katana, and that'll flow through into the order in Shopify as well. Now, while we would love to sync everything, there are some things that we do not sync, so just want to be pretty clear about that. One of those is when you create new products in Katana, they do not automatically sync over to Shopify. If you want to get a download of your Katana catalog to add it into Shopify through a CSV import or something like that, what you can do is within your settings under data import in Katana, you can grab your update products template in there, which will include your entire product catalog in Katana with the relevant information. We also do not sync over any raw materials from Katana to Shopify or Shopify to Katana as well. Perfect. So with that, we're going to launch just a second poll just to gauge some answers here, and then we'll move over to a live demo of connecting the integration. Awesome. Going to go ahead and share my screen. You should all be able to see my wonderful Katana here. So in order to connect Shopify to Katana, we're going to click on the puzzle piece icon located beside the purple robot in the top right-hand corner, which is probably one of my favorite sentences to say. So if you do not have Shopify connected, you're going to look for the integration in the integration list and you're going to hit connect. It's going to ask you for your Shopify URL, which is located up in this URL here in your Shopify store. So when I make that connection, what's going to happen is if I have multiple inventory locations in my Katana account, it's going to ask me where I want to map my Shopify locations to. So very, very important. I really want to stress this. This inventory mapping is for where the sales orders are going to land in. So once I create my sales order, I mark it as paid or payment pending. This is the location that sales order is going to wind up in your sell screen in Katana, but it's also used for the inventory sync. So just really want to be pretty clear about that. And then if you want to change this from my main location, maybe to a warehouse, I just make that change up there. The other probably one of the most important things about the Shopify integration as well is for the inventory sync and the sales order sync to work effectively. It is very, very important that your SKUs in Shopify match your SKUs in Katana. The SKU is what we use for order syncing and for the inventory sync. So after we've mapped our locations, we move over and the next section is the initial import. So this is what we're going to bring in from Shopify when you first connect the integration. Now, if I reconfigure the integration like I just did to show you in this demo here, this will also bring in those imports again. So you can re-trigger product imports and customer imports by reconfiguring the integration. So by default, Katana is going to bring in your paid orders. And then depending if you have this checkbox checked off or not, we will also bring in your payment pending orders. Now, non-physical products, you can determine whether or not you want them imported as a service or a product in Katana. So what would be a non-physical product? That could be something like a warranty or a gift card, something like that. Generally, you want to map them to a service item in Katana because service items don't have any inventory tracking, but you might want to have them as products. The key thing to have service items match is, again, the SKUs need to match, but the conditions in Shopify are that the item has to have that it's a physical product unchecked and that tracking quantity is disabled. If those conditions are true, then everything will map accordingly. The other option here is to bring in custom items on your order. So if I'm in a order in Shopify and I want to add anything custom to that order, if I want that custom item to also pull over into Katana, I have to select this checkbox here. And then again, I can determine whether or not I want it to be a service item or a product as well. So we can also bring in your customers and your products. So you just, again, need to toggle on that you want to import your customers and then toggle on that you want to bring in your products. Now, you want to be really clear that the product import, customer import is going to be an all or nothing kind of import. So you can't pick and choose what comes over. So I really, really recommend that your customer list, your product list, and also stock of those products, everything is basically up to standard. Otherwise, you're going to have some cleanup work in Katana to do after. So what some people will do is if their product catalog has a lot of like archived products, things like that, that they don't want to bring over into Katana, maybe some things they haven't cleaned up yet. But then if that's the case, I recommend using our add new product templates located under settings and data import. So then you can selectively choose what gets brought into Katana. The other option here is to bring over your stock levels of your products. Again, I really recommend only checking this off if your stock in Shopify is correct. The other portion is that we can bring in shipping costs from your orders as well, as long as this is checked on. Move to the next section, and this I will probably stress, this is one of the most important sections about the integration. So this is what syncs between Katana and Shopify. So when we go down here, we look at order fulfillment and inventory sync. So again, this is automatically synchronized order changes from Shopify to Katana. So what this means is if I add a line item, I adjust the quantity, things like that in the order. If I want those updates to push through into Katana, I need to make sure that this box is checked off. Additionally, This box needs to be checked off in order for me to allow location updates for a sales order row. So if I'm fulfilling from multiple locations in my Shopify store, if I want those to push through, then I need to make sure this is toggled on as well. The other portion is synchronizing order returns from Shopify. Again, needs to be checked off first. And then we have our fulfillment states between Katana and Shopify. Again, the fulfillment state sync is a two-way sync, meaning that if I mark my order as delivered in Katana, partially delivered, it's going to partially fulfill that order in Shopify or fulfill the entire order in Shopify if this is toggled on. The next portion is the stock level sync. I highly advise that you only toggle on the stock level sync if your inventory in Katana is correct. Essentially, the way the stock level sync works is that as soon as there's an inventory movement for an item in Katana and the inventory level changes, that inventory level is then synced over to Shopify in real time. Our inventory syncing logic is your in stock minus your commitments. That's the number that we send over to Shopify for your available units. Go to next here, and then this is just a big summary confirmation page of all of the changes that I've made or I've said I want to do. So I do really recommend just giving everything a good read through before you confirm. Once you hit confirm, then you'll see an import in progress and you'll get a pop-up once the import has been completed. Perfect. Now that we have Shopify connected, we can look and see how the orders come through. So all of your orders in Shopify, they're going to wind up in your sell screen here in Katana. And if they do come from Shopify, you'll see that there's a Shopify icon located beside them. I can click on this icon and it'll bring me right to that order in Shopify. Now let's go ahead and create an order so we can see it come into my Katana account in real time. So I have this citrus drink that my customer is purchasing, and I'm going to go ahead and mark this as paid. Once it's marked as paid, I'm going to create the order, and then that order will also be created in Katana. So we're going to look for order 1008. Going to give this a refresh, and we should see 1008, as you can see at the bottom here. So it came over in real time. When I click into this order, what it's going to give me is the customer from Shopify. If there's a customer applied to the order, it's also going to pull in their billing and their shipping address as well. It's going to pull in the delivery deadline from Shopify. I can also open the order in Shopify right from the order in Katana as well. And then it's going to bring in my line item, my quantity, price per unit from Shopify. And if there was any discounts applied to the order, like in my order here, the discount is also going to pull through as well. Same with the tax information. Really cool feature about Katana too is if you want to see your sales items and look at the inventory, we can always click on this in stock number, and it's going to show us how many items we have in stock, what's already committed to sales orders, and what those rankings are for those sales orders too. So if we want to plan out our inventory, this is a really great way to look at a glance from that order coming over from Shopify there. So let's look at some of these order changes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to update my quantity from 1 to 2 in Shopify. So I'm just going to go ahead and edit my order. I am going to adjust the quantity. I can't edit it because there's a discount. So I'm just going to add actually a brand new product. We're going to add the 6-pack in. And I am going to actually just add a custom item. So just going to give this a change. Go back to an old order here. I'm going to go to this one. And I have just one item. And I'm going to adjust the quantity to 2 here. So I'm going to make that update. And this was for order 1004. So I'm just going to jump into that one super quick. And we can see this was updated to 2 as in the order here in Shopify. So the other thing that we can sync over is tracking information as well. So you can add the tracking information in Katana and that'll push over to Shopify once the order is marked as fulfilled. So that I can go ahead, mark this order as delivered. It's going to put it in my done section in Katana with the cogs. And then we should see this order marked as fulfilled now in Shopify. So you can see both were marked as fulfilled, my tracking information pulled across successfully as well. Great. The other last thing I want to show you on my portion of the demo is the inventory sync. So again, the way this works is as soon as there's an inventory movement for an item, that's when we go update your inventory in Shopify. So a quick way to check and just make sure it's working is to create a quick stock adjustment here. So I'm going to create a stock adjustment for, let's take a look at this citrus drink. We have 8 currently available in Shopify. And I'm going to grab this, give it the can. And so we have 8 in stock. Let's just update this to 10. And again, just to remember, the logic that we send through to Shopify is your in-stock number minus your commitments here. So we have 18 pieces and we should have 18 pieces in stock now for this item. And we have 2 committed, so we should have 16 available in Shopify. So let's go ahead and give this a refresh. And as you can see in real time, we have the 16 available. We can also click on the adjustment history here. And then we can see just now that Katana made that update based off of the order I just fulfilled and my stock adjustment that I made in Katana. So that's just a really quick overview of connecting the integration, how sales orders flow and the order changes sync, and also how the inventory sync works as well. So I am now going to pass it over to my wonderfully talented colleague, Mike, to touch on the rest.
Thanks very much, Logan, and thanks for joining everybody. I'll just share my screen. Hopefully everyone can see my Katana now. So I am going to walk through a few additional features of the Shopify integration, and I'm going to begin with a little bit more about the fulfillment sync, which Logan briefly showed, as well as return sync. So these are settings you would have seen initially on our sync settings menu in the configuration. So this time we're looking at synchronize order returns from Shopify. This needs to be turned on if you want orders to returns to sync from Shopify to Katana. This is a one-way return sync. Creating a return for an order in Katana does not create a return in Shopify in this instance. Whereas the fulfillment state, that's a two-way sync. You can fulfill in either platform and it will update the status to align in the opposite platform. This includes partial fulfillment. So just wanted to highlight the difference there. One-way sync for returns, whereas it's two ways for the fulfillment sync. So to demonstrate this, I've got this order 1007, which is synced over from our Shopify store. It's just for one item, one piece of this citrus drink. And I'm going to fulfill this one from the Shopify side this time so you can see the reverse of what Logan showed previously. So I can mark this as fulfilled. You can add your tracking number and any carrier information there as needed. And once you've marked this as fulfilled, you'll see in real time that order updates to delivered as that fulfillment syncs over. That's now moved to your done section, and it adds the picked date based on when we received that delivery event from Shopify. And that one piece of this item has now left our stock levels in Katana, and the stock levels will be aligned if you do have your inventory sync turned on as well. So that's the fulfillment side of things. And once again, it works for partial delivery too. So if you had multiple separate items, or if you could only partially fulfill a quantity of the line item, you can fulfill a portion of that and it will update accordingly, and you'll have a partially fulfilled status or partially delivered status in Katana in that instance. So I'll now demonstrate the return sync. So as I said, this needs to be initiated from the Shopify side in order to sync over to Katana when that setting is enabled. So to do this, you can come to your fulfilled order in Shopify and we can initiate the return from there. It'll ask you to specify the items or the quantities that are being returned. So I'm just going to return that one item, citrus drink that we fulfilled. You can add your return reason. I'll just change my mind in this example. And from there, we will just complete the return. Just initiate the create return there. So we can create that. Oh, enable to create return. There we go. Cool. So now in Shopify, we'll see that this return is in progress. And what this status does in Katana, if I refresh that sales order, we'll now see that this has had a return order created against it. You'll see that in this return orders section here, and you'll know because this is the whole order has been returned in this instance, that return button is grayed out because all eligible items have already been created in a return order. So if I click into that return order from the sales order in Katana, we'll see a bit of information relevant to that return that's synced over. So you can open that order in Shopify, just like on the sales order, and you'll get a link to the original sales order in Katana too. You'll see the reason has synced over, the quantity and the pricing of the item that you've returned. The return to location, so that's where the return order document is being created. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's where it can be restocked, but I'll get to that in a moment. And while the return is in progress state in Shopify, it creates a not returned status in Katana. So this is essentially the order is being, or the item is being returned, and you can leave it as not returned while it's in transit or while it's getting to where it needs to be until you can finalize that return. So if I then come back to that order and return in Shopify, you can use the process and refund to close out the return. So you can organize any restocking if you need to. You can organize a refund if it's applicable and process that return. We'll now see that it's return closed status for this return. And if I come over to the return in Katana again, it's now updated automatically to return status. So essentially that return is completed at our side as well. The only thing that you need to do here, if this is applicable, is restock it. So if that item is returned to you and it's good to go back on the shelf or you can use it for another order, you can then choose to restock it. And this allows you to choose your restock location. So if you have another warehouse or another sales location where it's been returned to that is different from where it was originally sold, you can actually restock it elsewhere here. So you would choose your location and then update the status there to restocked, and that would add it back to your inventory in Katana as well. That's the return sync and the fulfillment sync. So I'm going to move on now, and I'm going to talk a little bit about how kits and bundle items work with the integration. So as an example, in Katana, we have our kits and bundles feature, which allows you to set a product as a kit and bundle. That kit and bundle will then allow you to add a product recipe or a bill of materials to the item, just like an item that you might normally manufacture. So this would be where you list any components of that bundle item. Say it's like a collection of products that you like to bundle together and sell as a whole under a different SKU for like a special price or whatever you need to do. You would add these all as ingredients here. So in this case, it's a simple bundle. It is a citrus drink 6-pack. And that bundle SKU simply has 6 individual citrus drink items under the bill of materials. So you need 6 pieces of the citrus drink to create the citrus drink 6-pack. So if I go back to my order, we can look at that order in Shopify as well. And this is the most important thing in terms of how it syncs between the two. And it's just the same sort of SKU logic as your other product matching. You want your bundle item in Shopify, in this case, the citrus drink 6-pack, you want that SKU that's assigned to that bundle to match the SKU of the bundle in Katana. You don't want to use the SKU for the individual items that make up that product. you want to have its own unique SKU so that this can sync over and align, match with the bundle SKU in Katana. So in this instance, it's citrus drink 6-pack, and you'll see on our order there, we've got that exact same SKU in Katana. So what this allows you to do now is you'll see there's a few different statuses compared to a regular item. You'll see the sales item status is not assembled, and you'll see a production status of auto assembly. So this allows you to basically bypass a manual production process. When you fulfill the sales item, the bundle sales item in Katana or in Shopify, it triggers an auto assembly manufacturing order automatically. So it will create and complete a manufacturing order for that particular bundle product and consume the components from stock to remove them from inventory. And in its place, it will add the kit or bundle SKU. So that in this case, it will add 1 6-pack of our citrus drink automatically. And at the same time, it will then fulfill that item and remove it from inventory, all in just as part of the fulfillment process. So it does that all for you. So this allows you to keep your kits and bundles at 0 in stock. And as long as you've got the ingredients, you will be able to auto assemble it, and you don't need to sort of go through and automate and keep those stock levels. So say you make them up as you go, you don't have to have them sitting on your shelf. You can have it as 0, and then it will use the material side of things to calculate what you can use. And that's where potential stock comes in with the Shopify sync. So potential stock for a kit or bundle is what is used to set the availability when it comes to our inventory sync instead of the in-stock quantity like your normal product. So in this case, our 6-pack bundle here, you can see I've got 0 in stock because I'm not keeping it on the shelf. I'm making them up as I go. However, I do have 12 of the single cans in stock. So basically, I have enough of the single cans here to make 2 of my 6-pack bundles. What you'll see here, we already have 1 of those bundles committed to a sales order, which automatically reduces 6 of those individual cans from being available. And what that means is that instead of 2, which I could technically make up, it leaves me with 1 in potential stock due to that commitment. So you'll see here the kit or bundle has its own potential stock column, which leaves me with 1 piece that I could make outside of my existing orders. And this count here is what will sync to Shopify as the available stock. So if I come over to my Shopify store, I'm going to go to my products list and I'm going to find that bundle pack. So if I scroll down here, I've got my 6-pack here. I can click into this and you'll see available stock is 1. That's because I've got enough in Katana to make 2, but 1's committed. Potential stock is 1, so that automatically sets the availability stock as 1 in Shopify too, which is a really cool feature. The next thing I'm going to talk about, so we've got a few things to get through, so I'll just jump into the next one right away. We are going to talk about custom products now. So there's a couple of things here slightly different from each other for how you can manage custom products. So the first one is like Logan touched upon in the configuration, and it allows you to quickly add a custom product to an order in Shopify, and that can sync through as a new product or a service if you prefer to Shopify, to Katana on a sales order. Now this process is perfect for if you quickly need to add like an irregular item, like a non-category item, non-catalog item to your orders, something that you don't normally have available on your website to buy. It might be a one-off item, but you need it to come through on an order to Katana. And that's where the custom item sync comes in handy. So what you can do here, when that is turned on, you can create an order in Shopify and you can use add custom item. You can call it anything you like. I'll just call it custom item 1. I'm just going to give it a $0 price. And I'm going to add that item to my order. Then going to mark it as paid. create the order, and this will then import to Katana in a moment. So order 1009, come to my sales list again. And we should see our order come through there. There we go, order 1009. So all this does is it simply creates that custom item as a brand new item. It doesn't ask you for a SKU. The purpose of this is basically for one-offs, like I said. Every time you use that particular function to create a custom item on an order, it disregards any previously created custom items like this. It won't match it to another one, so it treats each instance as unique. So they will be added individually to your product list in Katana when you use that process. This then allows you to essentially, if you're manufacturing, for example, you can create a manufacturing order for this custom item and go through and customize what you need to do to produce that item. So you can build out a one-off bill of materials on the manufacturing order specifically for that item to produce the item and add it to stock and then fulfill the order as needed. The other side of custom items, this isn't strictly reliant on having custom items turned on in the integration, but it's another way that you can manage this sort of flow. So using line item attributes or properties or metadata from Shopify to come over to add additional details to the sales item on the order in Katana. This is super helpful if you're doing things like custom jewelry where you have a lot of customization. You can change the stone on a ring or the size or the type of metal, anything like that. If you're engraving, you can allow the inscription that you need to be added by the customer to your Shopify store as a custom field or a metadata line and capture that, and then that can all pull through to Katana and have that information handy here. Really, really useful feature. I'll show you a little bit about how that looks now. So as an example, I have order number 1003 here. And you'll see I've got this item here called Mystery Pack, and next to the line item in Katana, you'll see this little drop-down arrow, and that expands, and you can see this attribute/metadata section, and I've got an attribute here that says number of cans equals 8. If I view that order in Shopify, you can see how that metadata was captured via your order. So in this case, this was a order that was placed online via a demo web store for this purpose, but I used an app called Infinite Options in this case to allow the customer to add custom attributes to their order. So when they place their order, you can set it up to capture various fields of information that you need to apply to the item. And they then come through in the Shopify order, and you can see them listed there underneath the sales item. When that order imports to Katana, that's where we capture that, and we end up pulling it through to this this field as an attribute or line item attribute or under the metadata drop down there, which is really helpful. Another thing that this then flows into in terms of the custom detail capturing, I'll just jump to a different example, is you can then capture those attributes. So in this instance, we've got some more attributes here. We've got design and text, so you can add custom text. This is really helpful for your production team if you're manufacturing. When you create a make-to-order manufacturing order specifically with this information in place already, that pushes through to the manufacturing order that you need to work from, and it's visible to your production team too. So this is a really, really great way to capture that information on the sales order, create your manufacturing order, and you'll see here under the product detail, all of those attributes that you've captured in the order push through. And this allows your production team to then go through and either modify an existing bill of materials if it's like a base product that you need to tweak a little bit, or you can completely build out your ingredients and operations for that particular manufacturing order to suit the customization of the product at hand. So that's a really, really cool feature there. And Finally, I'm going to touch upon service items. So this is a really cool way to capture non-inventory items in Katana that you sell in Shopify and allow the values of your orders to be aligned, even if it's not something that you need to hold in stock. It's a way to get the price of an item included on the sales order in Katana. So in Shopify, I'll quickly switch to my product view here. And I'm going to click into this extended warranty service item here. So in order to do this, I'll just quickly go to my configuration to show how it's previously set up. So you'll see here, non-physical products will be imported as, and we've got this set to services. So currently we want anything marked as non-physical in Shopify to link or create a service in Katana rather than a product. So in this case, where's my item? There we are. So I've set this item up in Shopify under inventory. I've selected inventory not tracked. I've assigned it a unique SKU, just as I would all of my other products, that kind of thing. I've given it a unique SKU so it can match to an existing service or SKU in Katana. And I've also got under the shipping section here, not a physical product. So this is really important if you want that non-physical item sync to map the way you need it to in the configuration. So inventory not tracked and not a physical product. When that is created, so when that service is added to a sale in Shopify and syncs over, it will then either match to an existing service with the SKU in Katana, or if that service has yet to be created in Katana, it will create a service specifically for you in Katana via the import process, and it will apply that to the sales order in Katana instead of a product. So if we have a look at how it looks in Katana, that extended warranty service, you'll see the exact same SKU has been used in my extended warranty, and you'll see here the differences in the statuses compared to a product. So sales items not applicable, ingredients not applicable, and production not applicable. That's because it's a non-inventory item. We don't need to create it. We don't need to use ingredients. We don't need to hold it in stock. It's a non-inventory item. But the pricing will come over. Again, I've used a discount in this case, but you can means that the price per unit and the discount will impact the overall total of that sales order, just like a regular product. And it can allow your sales total in Shopify to align with it in Katana, which is really cool. And if I click into the item card for that service there, you'll see specifically it's been created as a service. You can give a default cost, that kind of thing like that, for recording costs of services sold, just like COGS for physical goods. And then it will appear in your services list specifically. So we've got extended warranty there, and you can also use it as gift cards, that kind of thing as well. So that's the end of my demo portion. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, and we'll just sort of wrap up that part of things with a few key takeaways for the integration. So, number one, Katana is your inventory master. So remember that Katana is your source of truth, your master control for inventory in this equation. Stock, your inventory or stock levels will flow from Katana to Shopify, while products will flow from Shopify to Katana. You control your inventory in Katana directly. Updates to SKU stock levels will push through and update in Shopify, whereas you need to add your products to Shopify in order to pull them into Katana automatically, or you can add them to both and they will match by SKU, which leads me on to number two. SKU matching is everything. Exact matches for your SKUs is the best way to prevent any duplication. Before you connect the integration, it's highly recommended that you audit both platforms. Make sure the item in Shopify SKU matches the correlating item SKU in Katana. Really, really important to get a nice clean match and allow existing items in both platforms to match accordingly. Or if it's been created via a sync from Shopify to Katana, it will allow it to be created with the correct SKU and not match it to an unrelated item because of a faulty SKU or an unmatched SKU. Number three, prepare before enabling the stock sync. So really important. Make sure that your stock levels are correct in both platforms, or at least in Katana. It's really important that everything is looking really, really clean before you enable your stock sync. That way you will avoid any disruptions with the stock sync pushing over different stock levels than what you're expecting. And remember, the stock level that Katana uses to sync to Shopify is the in-stock quantity minus the committed quantity, or if it's a kit or bundle, it will use your potential stock level. Number four, two-way fulfillment keeps the systems aligned. You can fulfill your orders in either system and it will just update the other side automatically. That applies for partial delivery as well as full delivery. You can do it on either side to whichever you prefer based on your workflow, and it will keep the orders aligned. And number five, this is really good to know. You can reconfigure the integration at any time. So you're not limited to your very first setup. If things aren't working for you, or if you need to temporarily change settings while you sort of rework how you want it to work with our integration, you can come to the integrations area in Katana, click manage and reconfigure, and you can update your settings. So you can remap locations if you need to. You can turn on or off certain syncing functionality if you need to work on something and you don't want it to work in the meantime. You can always reconfigure it. And reconfiguring it is also another way to trigger a bulk import of new sales orders as well. So if any sales orders have been placed during a period of downtime where you might have disabled your integration, you could re-enable the integration and it can pull over any orders that were placed in between. It won't pull over previously synced orders, but it will allow those new ones to come through. Yeah, that's all from me for now. Thank you very much.
Beautiful. Thanks so much, Mike and Logan, for the demo, the thorough overview of the integration. Now we've got a few minutes left to take some questions. So I'll just open up the Q&A here and go through a few of them. Okay. Can we sync inventory for only selected products, SKUs, or items?
No. So currently with the integration, there's no way to sort of blacklist SKUs that you don't want to import. Essentially, if it's an active item in your product list in Shopify, there's no way to stop that from syncing over on orders. So you aren't able to limit in that regard. So there's not a way to actually go through and select which items you wish to be applicable for order importing or for the stock sync either. It will work for all the items.
Perfect. Anything to add there, Logan? Thanks for answering, Mike.
Oh, you answered that perfectly.
Wonderful. Next question here. When we mark an item returned and restocked in Shopify, does it sync automatically? Or do we need to click restocked in Katana to complete it?
Yeah, you'd need to restock it in Katana as well. Remember, the inventory sync is from Katana to Shopify. So if you restocked it in Shopify, it would end up having one added back to stock in Shopify, but that doesn't come through to Katana. So yeah, the restock function you'd need to update the return order to restocked in Katana, so it adds it back to stock at our side too, and that allows the two systems to be aligned. The return sync will not automatically restock an item. It will leave it up to you to decide what to do with it in Katana.
Perfect. Next up, can you allocate a product to a service?
When it's matching items, it will use products specifically. So in order to, you can match a service in Shopify to a product in Katana, but I don't believe you can do it the other way around. So in order to match to a service in Katana specifically, it would have to be marked as non-physical in Shopify. So you wouldn't be able to then have a product which is a physical item in Shopify matched to a service. You'd have to essentially tweak it so that it's non-physical in Shopify. I hope I've understood the question correctly. You can have services or non-physical items in Shopify create or match to products in Katana, though. And if you in the configuration, you can choose what non-physical items match to a service or a product. Um, yeah, hopefully I've understood what you're wanting to do there.
Wonderful. Thanks, Mike. And I'll just take one more, and whichever are unanswered, we can take them back with CSMs. The last one is, if I have multiple customers' codes for my products, can I match them to a one product? I hope I'm understanding the question correctly, the way that it's phrased. Did you guys get it?
Yeah. So if you've got the same item under multiple SKUs in Shopify, you want it to match to a single item in Katana, and
Correct. I
sort of
think
pull from
that's
a
the
master
question.
inventory. Yeah, so you can have different items in Shopify with different names, but it needs to have the same SKU. So you could have it labeled under totally different names in different categories in Shopify in order to have all of those instances linked to a single master item in Katana. They would have to have the same SKU. You wouldn't be able to use different SKUs and then have them all match. We use that as the key identifier to match items. So if they've got different SKUs, no, you wouldn't be able to have them all pull from a single item or variance inventory in Katana. But if they're named differently and they all use the same SKU in Shopify, then yes, you can. They will all basically pull their inventory from the single SKU listing in Katana.
That makes sense. Wonderful. So this takes us to the end of our live training today. We will be sharing the slides that we presented today with the demo portion also included as slides for materials for you to review, as well as the recording of the session in case you need to go back and go through any portion of the demo that we did today. You've got a customer success manager assigned to your account. So if you've got any further questions that you'd like to discuss with them, don't hesitate reaching out, and please share your feedback. We do have a survey at the end of the webinar, and your voice is important to us to continue shaping this series. It's been a pleasure to have you all today. Thanks very, very much to Mike and Logan. They did a fantastic job on the content and the demo today. And yeah, have a great rest of your day, everyone.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you so much for coming, everyone. Bye.